Welcome to another exciting edition to Grove City Hockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cutshield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cutshield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cutshield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code Grove City Hockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, and with me is a very special guest. I've got Tim McManus. For those of you who don't know who Tim is, he is a huge part of the roller hockey world in the United States and around the world. You got State Wars. You're Team USA's coach for this upcoming World Championships. It's happening in China in August. Tim, thanks for so much for coming on to the pod today.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Excited to be here, and sorry it took so long to get together with this. Just crazy schedules, but glad to finally be here.
Yeah, and when I first reached out to you, like over a year ago, I only had availability in the evening. Well, that was not going to happen for you at that time. Luckily, we were able to squeeze you in here, and I'm so grateful to have you on. But yeah, so one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on was to talk to you about how you got involved in hockey and roller hockey specifically. So why don't you take us back to the beginning of your time, like as a kid? What drew you to hockey? Was it like your parents kind of got you into it, or was it something you just kind of gravitated because all the neighborhood kids were playing?
Yeah, so funny story. I grew up in Valley Stream, New York, on Long Island, and I lived about 4 or 5 blocks from a hockey rink, a roller hockey rink called Barrett Park, and it was just a neighborhood league, kids, adults, and not too many years later did I realize what a mecca of roller hockey it was. But just walking by every day to go to the grocery store with my parents or go to the park to play or whatever, I would just see this hockey rink and these guys playing, and I just got drawn to it. And no one in my family had any interest in hockey. I still joke around with my friends saying when my mom first signed me up for hockey, they bought me a righty stick because I was a righty and everything, and I was really a lefty. So I played a year like that, being pretty terrible. But yeah, so that got me started. And once I got in, I was totally hooked, and that became pretty much my everything for the next, tons of years until now.
Yeah. It's one of those things where once you just start and you play, even if it's just with your local, like you said, local neighborhood kids, you get stuck to it, and it's hard to get away from it no matter what you do. You could take a break off, and the next thing you know, you're wishing you could get back out there and play with the boys and stuff.
Yeah, I started coaching at a young age. I was coaching at 16 years old in the league. I was refereeing. I was playing. So eventually, like I said, it kind of took over my whole life in so many different ways. And I met my wife at the hockey rink. She worked there. Her family was all part of the league. So yeah, so much of my life has been around hockey, and mainly roller hockey. I got involved with ice hockey too, but roller hockey has been the huge part of my life.
That's awesome. And so from there, you kind of move along. You're playing in youth leagues, obviously, and then you ended up going. You went to college, right? In New York, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I went to Queens College here, which is just 45-minute drive from my house. So stayed local. Unfortunately, looking back, I always say I wish I would have went somewhere and played club hockey or something away, ice hockey. It just wasn't into going away at that time. But, in our league, we had a really good adult league. And in 1992, our league had found out about the USARS Nationals, and it was being held in New Jersey that year. So they had like a little mini tryout, and we picked the top players from our league. It was 12 guys, 2 goalies, and we went to play in it. And it was the first time we played indoor roller hockey. It was our first time playing 4-on-4. It was our first time playing no offsides. A lot of first times for us. We had just played 5-on-5, outside, pavement, tape puck. So we had never used a Jofa speed puck before that they used. So it was a lot of firsts, and we went out there and we were really good. We dominated pretty well for our first time, and then from there it just became so evident how much the sport was popular in other parts of the country, and we just got really involved, and a bunch of us got playing, got involved with sponsors. We met LaBeta that year, and they became a sponsor with us. So we've been with them forever. And then I got involved in the coaching in 1995 with the Snipers and started the Sniper organization. And then we met Mission at Nationals, and we became the first organization that Mission ever sponsored. And that relationship has lasted till today.
Yeah.
So it's, it really took off really fast. And just from that point, going to Nationals that 1 year, it's been nonstop since 1992, really.
Yeah. And then that, from that, that Mission team, the Snipers, that has a pretty deep rivalry with another well-known club out there with the Palma Cyclones, aka the Palma Golden Knights. That kind of, and then I believe there was a couple other really good rivalries in there that I'm just drawing a blank all of a sudden. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how the pro hockey has changed or evolved from when you guys kind of first started to put on a series like that to where you see it today?
Yeah, so 2002 was our first year having a Snipers pro team. Up until that point, it was just youth and juniors and D1. And in 2002, we were at Narch, and we put together our first pro team. And actually, this summer, 2025, is the first summer since then we're not going to have a pro team with the Snipers, which is sad to say. But just things haven't worked out with guys retiring and getting older, and a lot of other aspects. But we started then, and when the game then, it was such a physical game and kind of dirty. The players were big, strong, a lot of ice hockey players playing the game, and the referees were more ice hockey officials, and they let guys get away with pretty much everything out there. And our team was young and small and more skillful, but they just get beat up. And the game is, in my opinion, has evolved big time since then. And now it's like the opposite. Now, a young team can come in and play and do well. It's more of a skill game. They call everything. It's kind of like the NHL too is like that, right? Like the NHL, back in the 80s, guys would be killing each other out there. And now you see all the power plays and the skilled smaller players able to play the game. And pro roller hockey has been like that too. It's really turned into a skill game, which is great to see. I wish it was like that when our team first started. We took a lot of lumps to get there. But that's really the biggest difference, I think, in the game now. The speed. I talked to some of the guys when I was playing about how it was then to now, and guys are like, wow, I don't know if I could even play today the way the game is so fast.
Yeah, I know. I was just talking to who was I just talking to the other day? And they were talking about the same thing. Brandon Barnett. He was telling me, he goes, the way that the game has changed, where it used to be it was a much slower pace, and now it's just such a fast paced, but everything is such precision that, the run and gun style is just, with the technical finesse that everybody possesses nowadays, it's insane. Yeah,
I mean, that's why I think our Snipers team was so successful for so long. We had a really good combination of being able to slow the game down and play that smart chess game, but also have the skill and speed to use it when necessary, where, back in the day, teams were very, very systematic in their play, and they slowed the game down. But they maybe didn't have the speed to match up with a team that's faster. But our team was kind of built on that. We had a good combo of ice guys that loved roller and roller only guys. So we had speed, but also could slow the game down, where some teams today just try to run and gun all the time and play that speed. And that's where some of the younger guys struggle with it. And that's why, you look at, say, like a Team USA or someone, like, it's still, some of the older guys are still playing because some of the young guys just haven't necessarily adapted to that yet, where you can't just go out there and run and gun constantly. You have to know when to use it and when not to.
Right. It's almost kind of like the kind of how I recently, especially with you talking about Team USA, is the Czech Republic or Czechia would be a pretty good example as to that. We're going to slow it down, but then when we need to go, we're going to go. And then you have the Team Namibia, which is that young up and coming team that is everybody's watching. Especially at that last World Skate Games when they took fourth. They were just, a run and gun type team. I would have loved to see how they would have played you guys, or how you guys would have played them in that semifinal game. But it would have been really interesting to see how that would have played out.
Yeah, even Chinese Taipei was like that, like a younger team. World Championships is it's a very different game. And I think a lot of people that, unless you've been there, it's hard to understand it. And even myself, before I got involved in 2017 was my first year coaching, I kind of didn't get it either. And I would say things like, wow, we could bring 10 teams from USA and kill everyone, or, think anyone could go over there and dominate. But it's such a different game, and you really have to appreciate it. It's normally a smaller rink, which in Italy it wasn't, which was to our advantage, I thought. But normally it's a much smaller rink, smaller nets. So the nets, instead of 6x4, are 5x3. And the referees call everything for the most part. So you're dealing with, a small rink, small nets, a lot of possible penalties. And a lot of these countries sit back and box it against you, especially us. So they just sit back and don't get involved in the play, and it gets very frustrating. And there's not a lot of room out there to maneuver. So you make one mistake, a shot off a shin guard, breakaway the other way, a breakaway goal. All of a sudden you're down a goal. They sit back more. It's not easy. So it's a very different game, and Czechs are great at it. Czechs are our biggest rival, I would say, and they're excellent. Two of the top players on Czech have played for my Snipers Pro team the last couple of years. Great players, great guys, and they play a great game together. The way they play, they're big guys, they're strong, they can shoot the puck. They're very good at passing. They're probably the best passing team, I would say. They got great goaltending. And, every time you play them, it's going to be a one-goal game.
Yeah, it's usually because, anytime you have Daniel Brayback in that against Troy Redmond, you're literally seeing the top two goaltenders in all of inline hockey playing each other. It's amazing. Yeah,
and honestly, Brayback's great goalie, but their other goalie, this guy, Frodel, who wasn't there in Italy because of ice hockey. He's played the last bunch of times against us. He's really considered their number one, and he's incredible. And we played them in Barcelona at World Championships, and they beat us in the round robin in a close game, and we outshot them. And then we beat them in the championship, and he was in goal. And then we played them at the World Games in Alabama 3 years ago. And beat them overtime in the gold medal game, and it was Frodel against Redmond there. Okay. And then Brayback just played against us in Italy, and he played excellent as well. He's a big boy, and he played well, especially in those nets. Yeah, and so then we'll come back to this because I really want to talk a little bit about this. But how did you decide to put State Wars together? That was something that. It came out just after Narch, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Narch started in 1993, I believe.
Yeah,
and I had been going to Narch for years as a coach and player, and loved it, and still love it. And State Wars, our first tournament was in 2005 in Chicago, and I've been coaching a lot and involved in the tournaments, and I kind of felt like the sport needed something different, and threw around some different ideas, and I was refereeing at a hockey rink, Rapid Fire Arena on Long Island, which is where Jason Muro from Black Ice, the rink he runs right now. and I was running the place, and I was refereeing high school roller hockey. And I would watch all these kids get so excited for their school teams in the stands and whatnot. It just made me start thinking about, state teams and how exciting that would be to root for your state. And just put some ideas together and went with it, and it took off. And luckily, it took off really well the first year, and we've been growing ever since.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where because I grew up literally halfway in between Detroit and Chicago. It was like 2 hours to Detroit, and it was 2 hours and 15 minutes to Chicago. So right smack dab. You always had like the mobster runs would be right in my cornfield area is what I would call it. Because I grew up in a rural area, so I didn't have ice hockey. Was the closest rink was Kalamazoo. But I mean, it just became one of those things where you could go either way. But back to what you were saying is that I always, saw Detroit as, as a rival. I always saw Chicago as a rival, even though I'm literally sandwiched in between the two. So like whenever I would get the guys, I would always want to beat the East Side guys. And same thing in Major League Roller Hockey or AIHL when I was playing there, and then eventually coaching in both of those leagues as well. It was just one of those ones where you just wanted to get a one-up on that, the guys from Chicago or from Illinois, because you always thought you were better than them. And it that stemmed more so from wrestling. When I grew up, because we didn't have high school hockey in my neck of the woods, but we could wrestle. So we would go to Indiana and wrestle those kids. So you had like that sense of Michigan pride. So as soon as I heard about State Wars, I was like, ooh, this is a great concept, and this concept is going to last a long time.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the things that were going on at that time in the sport were there was a lot of, agents out there grabbing players from different teams and bringing super teams together and going to play in tournaments. You'd see a kid from New York playing with a bunch of California kids, or a kid from Michigan playing on a team, with guys from another state, and you'd be like, why? And then they would go to the tournament, and no one really have a chance against that team. And a lot of times it was a sponsored team or whatnot. So that was a big part of it. Like, I didn't like seeing that aspect, how the sport was kind of going that direction. I was worrying about the future of it with that. So the state rules kind of changed that a little bit. And then also, going to single birth year divisions for the kids. With the 2-year divisions, I always would see, even teams I was coaching, if we were a first-year team, kids just wouldn't be as into it, or parents wouldn't want to travel, and they'd say, oh, we got no chance this year, wait till next year. I'm like, why? Like, why are we wasting a year of these kids, hockey lives? Mm-hmm. So, going single birth year, I thought was a good move to every year is your on year. So those two big aspects, and just playing, our tagline has always been pride and honor, playing for the pride and honor of where you come from, and letting that mean something, and playing with your buddies from home and not just jumping to other teams. So, it was a great concept. Like, again, started in 2005. We had 192 teams in 2005. And last year, in 2024, I think we had close to 350 teams or so in Missouri. So it's grown pretty well over the years. So pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and then this year you guys are going to Detroit, playing in Taylor. Are you guys taking up all? I think they have 3 sheets there, right? Are you guys taking up all 3 sheets?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays they use 2 ice sheets, and the back rink is like sport courts down there all the time. So we take up the 2 ice sheets, but we use all 3 rinks there, and we'll probably use a little overflow time over at Fraser as well, because typically 3 rinks just isn't enough for us. Yeah,
Fraser at Big Boy Arena has 5 sheets with their, if you include their roller hockey program, Plus they have the nice arena there too. I get a chance. I've gotten a chance to see that rink quite extensively, covering MyHa, from time to time. So.
Yeah, I wish it was a little closer to Taylor, but at least we have the ability to have games somewhere else if we need to.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, man. And then, so talk to me a little bit about because I'm all about the high level. I know that there are great kids coming up through the pipeline. Why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the young up and coming kids that we should probably start to be paying attention to, because, they're going to be making a run for Team USA here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, great young players, and that's kind of my job is to coach. And Greg Thompson's my assistant coach at State Wars. The Palmer Pro Invitational is, considered the top pro division in the sport. So to be able to watch players there and just sit back and see what's coming, and we're always watching new young guys. I mean, we've tried to get a little younger the last few years, and that's been kind of my goal with this team is to turn over some players, which is not always easy, but get younger players involved. In the last couple years, and we brought in Max Halverson and Joey DiMartino and Nick Delamorte as like three of the younger guys. And then a couple years ago in Argentina, we had Jaden Guzman play with us as well, who's a younger player. So we've been trying to get a little younger. It's finding that balance of, again, like we mentioned earlier, a younger player that's got the skill, but then also the experience. It's that age-old joke, right? Like you want a job, you don't have any experience, kid, but how do I get experience if I don't get hired for a job? So it's hard, picking that player. And we don't get to play year-round and practice and do a lot of stuff together. It's, the hardest part of Team USA, which, again, is a thing a lot don't understand, is chemistry. We have to pick a team of guys to go to a foreign country and be together for a week and maybe practice once before we get there and then practice once when we're there and then play and get along and be mature and understand that not everyone's going to be on the power play. Not everyone's going to be on the rink with a minute left and it's a 1-1 game. And, most players are used to being the star players on their own team, but being mature to buy into that, team concept, whether it's a goalie or a player. And I think we've done a really good job of picking the right guys for that. We just went to Italy, last year. The team, I couldn't have asked for a group of guys to get along better and play better hockey. It was great. Everyone just fit in perfectly. There was such a buy-in for the team. And I think anyone that watched us saw that, like how well they played together. But it was such a team unity. Travis Snow, our captain, is excellent at making everyone feel part of the group as far as a player goes. There's only so much the coach can do. So you need your captains to do that, and he's excellent at that. And, we had a great run with that team, and that whole team got invited back to go to China for the World Games this summer based on how well they all played together. So it was, again, a great group. Trying to find young guys, there's always players out there. I don't want to really mention any specific names because I don't want to give anyone the wrong idea that, they're the next one up for it and no one else is. So I don't want to really get in specific names with that, new guys. But, we're always watching players, and players will reach out to me, say, hey, I'm interested and whatnot, which is great to see. But, we're watching. And again, at State Wars this summer, this will be the first summer I'm not coaching the pro division since it started in 2015, the Palmer Pro. So I'll have a lot more time to just sit back, take notes, watch players. And, 2026 is the next World Championships in Paraguay. So that's what we'll be looking to pick our next team for. And, you're always hoping maybe to get another young guy in there.
Yeah. And earlier you had told me about Team USA, where you guys are, Team USA is going to China, but you will not be making the trip because of scheduling conflicts, right?
Yeah, so World Games this year, unfortunately for us, or for me, is basically the day after State Wars ends, and I would have to fly from Michigan, maybe even leave State Wars early, and fly straight to China. It takes about 2 days to get there, and then be gone from home for another 8 or 9 days after I've been gone for 3 weeks. So it's just too much going on, too much for Greg going on as well, to be gone that long, and State Wars has to take priority for us. So Rob Chernamid from Lebeda, who's coached in the past, who's a very close friend of mine, I had spoken to him about would he be willing to coach at World Games for us. And he obliged, luckily. I wanted to make sure they were in good hands, and they will be with him. And there were a few players from last year's team that could not play this year. So Troy Redmond couldn't play. Tyler Kraft couldn't play.
Yep.
And who else couldn't play? Tyler, Troy Redmond,
Travis Snow, I believe.
Travis Snow, yeah. So Travis. So they, Rob was able to replace those players with the Mooney brothers, who are great players. They played with us in Argentina. And Patrick Puglisi is going to play in goal now. I think now Mike Paczynski couldn't go, so he's going to play goal with Keith Johnson. So they have two great goalies with them. So I think they made some good changes. It's not easy, but giving new guys opportunities for that. But again, it just all comes down to chemistry. You're playing for those check games. Again, anybody can beat anyone, but you're really focused on check. And it's probably going to be a 1 or 2 goal game, and it could swing either way. So it's not easy.
Yeah, and it's the top 8 teams that finished in the World Skate Games. So if I'm not mistaken, it was Team USA, Czech Republic, Italy, Colombia, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think they made it. Chinese Taipei, Namibia also, and I'm missing.
China gets in automatically because they're the host country. Okay. Argentina might be in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know France didn't make it, which was a big change for them. They're usually a top 4 or 5 team, so they didn't make it.
Yeah,
Canada might be in it too. I think it's USA, Canada, China, Chinese Taipei, Italy, Namibia, Argentina, and maybe Colombia might be the 8th. I'm not sure about Colombia. That's really, it's 8 teams there. You play in 2 pools of 4. You play everyone in your bracket, and then I think the top. They may do I think they only do top 2 and each make the playoffs. They just do semis, finals at World Games, if I remember correctly. Okay.
Yeah, it's a new. It's not necessarily a new concept, but I haven't had a chance to take to see the brackets or the pools yet. They haven't posted them yet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we might have seen them.
I mean, you might have seen them, but I haven't seen them yet. It might be released to the coaches, but it hasn't been released to the public. I try to keep up with that. When I coached in Namibia in 2012, I had 3 or 4 of the guys that are on the squad now were on my youth teams when I was coaching there for a little bit.
Okay.
So I had the Cotis brothers, Reiner Bingham, and then Theo Bordeslap, and all of them, I think, if I'm not mistaken, are all under 23. Yeah. There maybe one kid. So those kids they were really good when I had them, but then again, when I saw them, they were, I think one of them was Theo was 5. He was just learning how to skate. To see him, kind of make the national team was really cool to kind of see, and then kind of keeping an eye on the Namibian girls team because those girls were studs when I was over there. So it was pretty impressive to see how that has turned up. So they're sharing a little bit, but
yeah, they've come over to State Wars a bunch of times with their teams.
Mm-hmm. With the Sidewinders.
Yolandi, she was like the team manager there and stuff.
Yeah,
she was great to deal with, and they were coming like every other year. It's just so expensive for them, so they haven't come the last couple of years. We hope to have them back. But yeah, it was great to see Namibia, at Worlds do so well. I assumed they were going to struggle with Czechs, seeing that matchup, but they gave a good game for sure. Yeah. And it's like everything else. It's a young man's game. So these young teams, Chinese Taipei gave us a tough game. I think we beat them 3-1. Mm-hmm. So it's again, the way the refs call the game, that you can't really be that physical. So you don't have to be a big, strong guy to play in that sport at that tournament. Where I know, like when France, for instance, they came to play at Palma Pro last year, they went 1-3 in the round robin, and they talked to us about how much more physical it was than World Championships. It's a much different game playing here than there. So even our players have to learn to, and we do a good job of it. They don't take a lot of penalties, but you got to change your game because they call it much differently over there. Yeah,
and is Team France coming back again this year to play the Palma Pro?
No, they're not going to play this year. Same with them. It's just so pricey for them to come over. Mm-hmm. So I think they have the European Championships are being held somewhere around the same dates as State Wars. So they can't come out to play. Team Sweden will bring a team out again. They're going to play in the Palma Pro play-in again with that. So Palma Pro this year, we basically have 6 qualified teams from last year because we'll take the snipers out and take France out, and it'll give us 6 teams that qualified last year. and then we'll take the top 2 out of 8 from the play-in to make 8 teams, and we'll play with an 8-team Palma Pro this year.
So the 6 that automatically qualify, I believe, were the Connex Rage Cats, the Palma Golden Knights, Buffalo Wings, Black Ice, Carshield, and I am missing the third one. The 6th one.
Roadrunners?
Yes, Tour Roadrunners. Yep. And then you got the Palma play-in, the pro play-in. 8 teams, you said?
Yeah, there'll be 8 teams in that, and the top 2 will advance up to play, and they'll each be in a different of the 2 pools in the Palma Pro.
Have you been able to set which 8 teams those are going to be yet?
Not yet. We just started sending invites out. We've already gotten a bunch of teams, interested to be on this year. A couple of the teams that did really well last year, I'm sure will be back in. I know, like Vince Freeze group out of Texas, the Beta Freeze group, which is picking up some players now to play pro, add to their team. I think maybe a couple of those Czech guys that we talked to possibly might be playing with them this year from our team. So they're going to be a strong team. They want to play in the Palma. Excited to see what 2 teams come out. It's an argument both ways. With the Palma Pro play-in, how it works is the one day they're there to start, they have to play 3 games. Mm-hmm. And if they advance out, they start the Palma Pro the next day. So some may argue that, they're tired. I think it's an advantage. They get to play 3 games, and the Palma Pro teams haven't even played a game yet. I know for our sniper team that don't play in a lot of tournaments, that would have helped us. So they come in hot, and we'll see how they do. So I'm excited to see which teams come out this year.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I'm as much as I can to get a chance to watch it, especially on your live stream. I'm going to check it out. I know I've already talked to my wife about heading over, because you also have another event coming up during the State Wars that is probably not really flying under the radar because it's starting to get broadcasted out there. But you have the Freeze Women's Showdown, or Women's Pro Showdown, which is new this year. You're getting a $10,000 prize for that as well. It's going to be very similar to the Palma Pro, but for women. And I think that's awesome for women's athletics and women's pro hockey.
Yeah, we're excited to do it. For years we've had our women's division, and the girls, and rightly so, have been on us a little bit about doing more for them, and they've come a long way, and the skill level of the women's division for sure, and we want to support them. Like I said, I'm a dad of 3 girls, so I get it. We love seeing girls' sports get bigger and better. And I had reached out to Vince Free from the Beta Freeze, and he's been a big part of State Wars since 2005 with Team Wisconsin, and a good buddy of mine, and he's doing very well with his life outside of hockey, and he's been giving back to the sport, which is great to see. So I didn't want to reach out to Palma to be part of it, as they already do so much for us with the pro division, and Carshield does so much for us with other things. I was like, who's someone else we could get involved in this great thing? And I thought of Vince, and he was my first phone call, and said, hey, would you like to be a partner of mine with this, and we'll donate half the money each and make this bigger and better for the girls? And he was like, absolutely. So we're working together for it, and real excited to see the first year it start this year. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. When you get the team list, I hope you can shoot me an email about it, because I want to talk about it. I talked a little bit about it with Dan Costas from Epic Hockey, because I know his daughter with Epic Society or Epic Empire. They've been trying to work some girls in there to make it happen.
Yeah, we want to have the pro game for that right before the pro final for the men's. Like we altered the dates a little bit so they could be the same day. Usually the women's AAA for us would end the day after pro. So we've moved it back a day so it could be the same day. So we could live stream broadcast that women's pro final right before the men's pro final, and hopefully get a lot of eyes in the crowds, because you'll see a tail at Sportsplex. It'll be packed, for the men's final every year. It's not a seat left in the house to watch that game. So hopefully having right before the game, people get there early, and we get a really great crowd for the women as well.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that I told my wife. I said, "Hey, we should go check this out," because she's all about women's sports.
There you go.
Especially with my daughter, even though she's only 20 months old right now, she still has a little ways to go. But she's really big into soccer, and she can't stop watching hockey. I kid you not. It's insane.
Awesome.
Like we were taking her to high school hockey games, and she's not running around. She's watching the game, and it's pretty cool.
That's
But
great.
but man, so is there anything else that you can kind of share with us about your journey that we haven't already had a chance to kind of touch in on? You've met your wife, you've got a great set of kids, you've set up this incredible tournament series, or not tournament series, but this incredible State Wars event that's been going on ever since 2005, so 20 years. It's incredible. I mean, what you have done to give back to the sport of roller hockey is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just proud that, when we started State Wars in 2005, the first people I reached out to are still parts of it, the sport now, or over the last few years. And those people are, Joe Cook, who at the time worked for Mission Hockey, and then he was with Alkali and Mars Blade. And I still talk to him regularly. And he was the one that got me involved with coaching Team USA. He was the head coach in 2017 at IIHF, and he brought me on as an assistant. And then I became the head coach 2019. So if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd be coaching the team. So, Joe, having a guy like him from day one, and now he's, all these years part of State Wars. And, tour hockey, same thing. We went to Mission, we went to tour, and, tour Chad Siebel was working there then, and now he's the head guy there now, and he's been part of it ever since. So tour has been a big partner of ours. And I mentioned LeBeta earlier, Rob Chernament, LeBeta family. They were a sponsor of mine as a player since '92, and then with the Snipers in '96, and they were one of the first phone calls in 2005 for State Wars, and they're still a big part of State Wars and a big partner of ours. So it's great to see that. And there's been a lot of new companies that have come along since then. Rinkster, which was Rink Rat, and Champion Wheels, and Connex Wheels, and Carshield, and Stillmat now. I'm very involved with Stillmat. A lot of these companies, which has been great. So it's been a great journey to make friends so long ago and still have these people part of our lives and part of the sport together. Even Darren Goodwin at Narch is a good buddy of mine, and we've been buddies since bringing the Snipers to the tournament back in the 90s, and we still talk regularly about the sport. And even Ron Bielson at Tours as well. When I first started coaching, he was coaching his son and the Tour Bandits out of St. Louis, and we were battling each other then, and we're still friends today, and again talk about the sport. And we just on a phone call the other day, Ron, Darren, and myself with RHA, just talking about the sport and things we could do better together and how we could work more together and make the sport improved. So that's been a fun part of the journey as well. And the one thing I would like to mention with State Wars that we didn't talk about that's real exciting that we started last year was our partnership with the National Development Program and Team USA. So, as coach, I've been working with, Charlie Skrillo and Charlie Skrillo Jr. they started the USA NDP, National Development Program. So what we did last year at State Wars was we had an 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U, and 16U division where we talked to coaches and we invited players from all around the country to play for USA East, West, or Central. And they stayed one extra day at State Wars, and they played 2 games against each other for a showcase. And it allowed us to start seeing these younger players, getting back to earlier about getting younger players involved. So starting at 8 years old, get these kids on the radar of, hey, this kid's a stud out of Missouri, this kid's a stud out of New York. And maybe you play 10U, 12U, 14U, 16, junior team. It's kind of like USA Hockey does this with their development program. And it was unbelievable. It went so great last year. And this year, we're doing it again. And now we've added Canada to the group. So I've been talking to the guys with Canada, and we're going to have a Canadian team in those 8U, 10U, 12, 14, 16, 18, not 18, up to 16U with East, West, and Central. And they're all going to stay 2 days, and they'll play each other once, and then we'll have a championship game for the top 2 teams.
That's awesome.
So real excited for that, for the kids to get a chance to play. So they'll play with their team at State Wars, and if they were picked for it, They'll stay a couple days after their division ends to play. And those players, if you make Team World at State Wars in the older birth year of your 2-year age group, you get invited next year automatically to play for that team. And then the rest of the players are picked by the NDP group from talking to their coaches and scouts in different parts of the country to pick those spots to play, which is really awesome for those kids. So if it's a, let's call it the 14U, I think, if it's 2012s and, 13s, then, most of the team will be 2012s this year. And then next year, the 2013s will be the prime of those 2 years. Mm-hmm. So every other year is kind of like your year for that. Okay. And then we're starting this year the Global Inline Junior Challenge, which we started. And that's going to be for the junior age kids because World Championships is now every other year. Mm-hmm. There's always an age group of junior kids that kind of get left out. So last year in Italy, the junior team was made up of 06s. This year would be the 07 year, but there's no World Championship. And then next year, they're too old. So we said, hey, why don't we do something internationally for these kids? So the Global Junior Inline Challenge was born. We've been talking to Canada and to Colombia and to a couple other countries. And it's going to start small, but the goal is to have an 07 team from USA in that. And then maybe a younger team to look at kids for next year. And then have Canada do the same, have Colombia bring a team, and we can do a little international division for a few days for the junior age kids. So that's starting this summer too. So real excited for that.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to check that stuff out too. Anytime I get a chance to watch some high level inline hockey, I'm all about it.
Oh, absolutely.
So. All right. Well, Tim, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you're a very busy guy. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to jump on the pod to chit chat with me and to talk a little bit about your journey. But then we really talked a lot about the international game and State Wars, and I absolutely loved it. So I thank you so much for taking the time.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. We need guys like you promoting the sport, and appreciate you having me on. And sorry it took so long to get here, but glad we finally got to make it work, and look forward to hopefully seeing you at the rink, hopefully seeing you at the Taylor Sportsplex this summer at State Wars. Don't be shy, say hello if you're there. You're not too far, so let's twist your wife's arm and get you guys there.
No, I've definitely been trying to. I told her, hey, we're gonna go because my vacation time has renews right around that time, so I'm definitely gonna make an effort to be there.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ben, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yep. That's going to do it for this episode of GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, alongside Chris Greco. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe on all our platforms on YouTube and on Spotify. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Cheers.